Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mayor of Kingstown, Season 3, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we obviously, with the toxicology, it is confirmed that the person that was messing with Bunny's drugs, it wasn't like an inside person or someone like infiltrating his organization or like messing with his drugs in that capacity. Ended up being Constantine, which seemed like it was likely, but this kind of confirms it because it's specifically something that's kind of like a Russian speedball, as Evelyn puts it. It's like, yeah, like it's something they would give astronauts to keep them awake or something like that. So, but Mike wanted to kind of keep that low key until he was able to talk to Bunny to stop Bunny from finding out. But the problem is, word already got out. It's already out there, so Bunny already knows. So Mike has to stop like a war between Bunny's people and Constantine's people. But Bunny's screening all of Mike's calls, and it's like, okay. Which I even love that Mike had to go to see Rhonda, which I love. Like some of Bunny's boys are like busting his chops for that, being like, oh yeah, you know, the heart wants what the heart wants. And he's like, shut up. It's like, oh, you can talk to Rhonda, maybe she'll have some information for you. He's like, oh, there you are staring that up. He's like, nah. But it does, like, I was kind of getting that vibe last season too, that like Rhonda's definitely sweet on Mike, but he's also like trying to pull the trigger on that situation. It's like, nah, that's kind of like, it's so interesting because it seems like Bunny's not against it, but it's still just kind of like, I think for him it's like, nah, that's too close to home, and it just feels, I think for him it's probably like if anything ever happened between him and Rhonda, it'd be like him and Iris. It's such a weird thing of like, I don't know what this thing is, and that's just kind of like, it's such a weird thing, you know? Because also he probably feels like being with Rhonda would be like too much of a, like, he's always walked and toed that line in between that gray area, and it's like, that'd probably like sling him, even though he does potentially sometimes lean more to criminal side of things, maybe that would just skew his view and just skew things too criminal for him, his liking, I don't know. Because she's talking about how she's expanding out the business, which I even love that Bunny like loves that. He's like, right, what she has is something real. Because she had talked about, like, I'm sure she knew where Bunny was, maybe, but she wasn't saying anything because it's like, right, what Bunny does, Bunny's got to protect what's his, because by protecting what's his, he, like, by him running things has protected so many people. It looks out for so many people. So it's like, it's a thing of Bunny's like that necessary evil of like in a community where it's like, right, Bunny looks after us like no one else can. So if Bunny needs to kind of start some shit just to kind of keep his held down so he can hold everyone else down, like, then what is there to talk about, you know? But Mike is like, yeah, but my job as mayor is to literally be the bridge between everything, to keep everything kosher, to keep everything calm, and I don't want Bunny going crazy. And Bunny went crazy, got locked and loaded. The home dude that's like, whoa, that grenade, put it down. That's like for selling. You know, also he talks about, at least they have someone there being like, yo, you don't want to throw a grenade. The radius of it, yeah, you'll kill the person you're after, but the shrapnel, all that devastation, it's like you'll kill civilians. So let's kind of keep this low key. This particular weapon, I love the description of 800 rounds of democracy. It's like, oh boy. And Bunny's a little too happy about it, like, because he's talking about how this ain't no more like, this isn't as pretty, like, it's not like tit for tat type of situation. He's kind of like, I'm feeling it in my soul, like it's time to like, it's time to make a statement. So he does end up popping off on the bar and everything, the club / bar that Constantine's at, that was previously Milo's. Well, to be fair, it was always Constantine's. He was just kind of giving a lot of that to Milo to kind of operate, which that's a whole thing for Constantine, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I got popped off on that place. Sadly, Mike and Iris were there at the time. But it's like, yeah, Bunny, you would have known that if you kept in contact with me, because it's like, oh, why were you there? It's like, I'm trying to stop you. I'm trying to remedy the situation with your drugs being tampered with, but yeah, either way, kind of coinciding that situation at the same time. Speaking of like Iris and Constantine, her rolling up there, I was like, that's the thing of like, I was trying to figure out what Iris was up to, and it definitely implied like her and Constantine have a deeper relationship than she implied, because she was just like, right, he was on a murder charge with a judge, I slept with the judge and kind of got that cleared out. But like the way Constantine hugged her and she hugged him, it's like, oh, there's definitely something more here, because it's like he's the one that named her. At first I was like, that's not her dad or something, is it? But it's like, he like, because I was about to say, I was like, wait, is Iris your real name? It's like, no, he's the one that gave her current name, which is Iris, you know? I wonder will we ever find out her real name, or will she always be a mystery, an enigma? Probably not. But it also just feels like I got that feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'm like, this Iris stuff, it's only a matter of time before she gets got. Especially with the Tatiana of it all. It just feels like she's going to get got this season. Like, there's been so many situations. Like, she's had it so rough. I mean, and this is just what we know with the confines of the show. There's a lot about her previous life to Kingstown that we don't know too much about. So it is just kind of like, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop with the Iris stuff and say, this show is such a heartbreaking gut punch that it's like, Iris is going to die. I don't know if it's going to be this season or what, but it's just like, it's going to pop off and motivate Mike to kill Constantine. Like, she's going to get found out or something. I get that feeling. I was scared the entire episode. I was so nervous, but it's like, okay, it all worked out. But it's like, how long before it doesn't? Because, like, Iris says this line later on where she's like, oh, like, everyone that knows my connection to you, Mike, is dead. I mean, the only people who are in the know are, like, the cops who know, and the family knows, but we got to cut ties, pretend like she doesn't know Mike. That's the only way to sell this. But there is that woman who Iris was in jail with. The one that, like, she was kind of taken care of. And, like, they made such a point of focusing on her being, like, looking at Iris. Like I said, she was there when, like, Iris was working with Tatiana. So it's like, she has to know about the Mike connection. So there's at least one person alive still knowing that. I don't think they have to worry about Milo because Milo's just in the wind. So there's no chance of him blowing up Iris's spot about that. Because I guess Constantine doesn't know why she, like, only knows that, oh, because she says, Milo called for me here and no one, like, told me not to come here. No one blocked that order. And Constantine's like, if I had known, I would have. Because it's like, right, you're too good for Milo. Like, he wasted you. And also, I hate what he reduced you to, just being, like, his puppet to kind of sleep with you. Like, it's just, it's like almost like a, it's like you were so much more than what he utilized you for. He wasted your potential. Like, the whole notion of what her name represents. Specifically like a Siberian iris. It's supposed to be like a sword. And it's like the moment you walk in a room, you pierce the heart of every man. And it's like, it's kind of like your superpower, you know? And so it's like Milo utilized that, but he always kind of like utilized it in like the most mundane version. He never used her to her full potential. Is kind of what Constantine was kind of getting at. But I'm curious, like, what their relationship is. Like, the fact is they answer to someone else. Like, I'm like, who does Constantine answer to? Because Milo answered to Constantine, and even Iris does. But she was saying, like, yeah, no one blocked it. So it's like, is that someone underneath Constantine that should have blocked that, or are they talking about some higher? I was like, how far up the food chain does this go? Like, is there higher than Constantine, or is Constantine where the buck stops? I don't know. But either way, like, Iris's reason for being here is because she's trying to protect Mike. Because, I mean, it's so interesting because Mike was trying to do the reverse for her when he was like, yo, what's her connection to Constantine do? And she's like, yeah, like, nothing like that ever happened. And Mike was like, I'm not judging you. I'm not saying anything because you don't ever have to do that type of stuff again, that type of work. But it's like, because Mike was trying to find out, like, okay, if you're someone that either it's like, right, Constantine has all the reason to keep you alive because you have a good enough relationship with him, or you have such disconnect from him, he's not even going to register in his head. He should kill you. Because she's lied, because he doesn't know that she stayed in Kingstown. I don't know when he thinks she left. I don't know if he thinks, like, she left after season 1 or, like, after Milo and she left, because she makes it seem like, oh, she came back. Once again, they cannot let anyone find out that, specifically anyone connected to Constantine, that she's been in Kingstown and her connection to Mike. They're supposed to be complete and utter strangers, because then Constantine's going to be like, okay, so you're here for him. Like I said, that also adds validity to, like, he doesn't know that her job here was initially to get close to Mike. You'd also be a little concerned considering, like, the way Mike handled the whole thing, like, when Bunny's people were shooting up the spot, when he grabbed Iris, you were like, that could draw unnecessary attention. To be fair, your boy Constantine, I wasn't expecting him to be look at the booger sugar. I wasn't expecting it. It's like, oh, you don't seem like you'd be the type. You seem like the calm, collected type. So you, like, getting high just didn't seem. It's like, okay, that you seem that also seems like a terrible idea. Not in the like, oh, he's like, he just seems like he's the type of person that like will get high and pop off. So I think that's something we're going to probably have to worry about. Of like, yeah, his mental state sometimes when he gets high, I think is a concern potentially. Maybe it'll make Iris's job a little easier, or it's a profession where you're going to be paranoid. You're getting high; it's just going to add to that paranoia, which could lead to all kinds of shit going wrong and super sideways. Because him and Mike also had that conversation about, it's like, right, do not retaliate against Bunny's people. And he's kind of like, right, this is just like, what damage they did, it's like, it's nothing. The real stuff, the real meat that I have is like behind glass. And it's just talking about like, right, Bunny and his people, these animals, these creatures. And like, okay, when you refer to them as that, it's like, I don't know if it's when you say those words, you can't help but feel like a racial connotation to that. But you're also like, I don't know if he's even thinking that. He's Russian, so it's like it might not have the same vibe to it. Like if that was like, it gives off energy like the Aryans, but and that's who he's in bed with. But I'm like, I don't know if it's the same thing, because it's like he might not mean that in a black sense. He might just mean that in the sense of, a fellow criminals. Like, I'm a high class criminals. They're bottom of the barrel. Like, look at them. Like they all that they do. Like they're not smart. I'm smart, and I act when I need to act. I'm not just going to like retaliate, and if I do, it's going to make an impact. It's going to be very specific. You're going to know when I make a move. So Mike's got to deal with all that hoopla. But that line from Iris when she was talking to Mike, because like Mike's still pressing, like, you don't have to like do this, and she's like, you told me I could stay or go, and she's like, well, if I'm staying, this is how I'm going to end up staying, because she wants to protect Mike, because she cares about him. I would assume this has nothing to, I was wondering, like, does this have anything to do with what Ian found out about her, like an episode, like 2 or so episodes back, the thing that he made disappear that file, that is like, right, Mike can never know. I'm like, what is that about? Is this connected to this? You feel like Ian would have said something, but to be fair, anytime Ian was around Iris, Mike was there too. So even if those conversations could be had, they're not going to have them around Mike, obviously. So maybe it has nothing to do with Constantine. Maybe it's not directly connected to Constantine. Maybe it's like tangentially, like it might be something like New York related that she's kind of running from. But I don't know what it is specifically that would be so bad. She's like, do not let Mike know about it. He can't know. Iris's first day, like I brought up before, undercover, like it all ultimately worked out despite like how nerve-wracking it is. She's convincing him like, oh yeah, like let me work at Cabo, and that's how she's gonna keep. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, you're gonna be the hostess, you're gonna be like Tatiana. It's like, no, better than Tatiana, because it's like I don't know if he like how you handle that thing where it's like, well, she knows Tatiana's not around, so is she supposed to know that Tatiana got blasted by him? Like, that's what I'm wondering, like, because she's like, oh, I came back to Kingstown because I heard word you were here and I heard Milo was gone. So, and he also made it clear he like wiped the board of anyone that was loyal to Milo. So I think that all kind of happened simultaneously with wiping out and killing Tatiana. So. I guess just after everything Mike's done for her, she wants to pay him back. She wants to help him in any way, and this is the best chance, because she's like, yo, Constantine's going to come after you. Other elements, like other aspects of what you do as the mayor, I can't really interfere. This is something I can do because I'm a key figure in all of this. I have my connection to Constantine, so I can approach this situation differently from you as the mayor. You're always going to be on the outside, but I get on the inside. And she's there witnessing the deal between AB and Constantine, so it's like, cool. So now they know that the Aryans are working. So it's like, all right, so who's pulling the strings behind that? It's like Callahan. Mike already knew like Callahan had some play going on, but now it's like, okay, you came here to work with the Russians. Like, how did that all get set up? We'll see what that ends up turning into. Like, what are they getting out of this partnership with the exchanges of like, oh, because even Iris is like, oh, are you sure that they don't like short you? And he's like, yeah, you know what happens to anyone that kind of like tries to trick me or play me. And she's like, yeah, that's kind of a known factor. I'd actually completely forgot about the Miriam's pills that she had because she was getting high with Constantine. It's like, oh, I got to go the other way. She pulls out Miriam's pills. I was like, right, they set that up in episode 1 and just we never got that payoff until now. Which you're like, feels like that's going to turn into something too. Just you never know what storyline beats are going to turn into something and how that's going to come back around. I mean, that's just storytelling in general because you never want to be able to fully guess something just for something to be like it's such a small thing that it's like, well, it seemed like for a while she was clean. I mean, and from what we saw in the season so far, this is the first episode. I mean, who knows if she's popped any of Miriam's pills up until now, but it doesn't seem like it is. But like, this is her first time doing anything drug related was this episode. You know, you gotta keep the cover and do your thing. So kind of on the Iris subject, Mike and Ian had an interesting conversation about, well, Ian's like, right, she's not a civilian, she's a soldier, but Mike's like, no, she's not. She is just a civilian. And he's like, I understand why you do what you do, because he's like, I miss your mom, and she was like, she would have taken someone like Iris under her wing, and that savior thing, it's like, that's what that comes from. That's what you're trying to be with Iris. Because he's like, yeah, I just wish Iris had never come here, because like, now that she's here, she will never leave. Like, most likely, the only way to leave Kingstown it will be, and it's not even, I was about to say, you won't even leave Kingstown in a casket. You will be buried here. Because Ian was talking about this cop that he knew, that he's like, yeah, this guy was like, yeah, drugs, bodies dropping, and the guy retired, which Ian's like, yeah, you can't, like, there is no retiring from this. You kind of, it's like, how that all ends is like, whether it's comic, whatever it is, but it's like, the never-ending cycle, the back and forth of the bullshit, like, how does it all end? It's like, oh, the only way it's going to end, this is going to continue forever. The criminal, back and forth, you lock him up, it doesn't work out. Because he had just told that story to Stevie earlier in the episode about some guy caved a dude's face in with a brick for $15 so he can buy fentanyl. He ended up getting locked up and let go. Then he got high, overdosed on that. Then now we have to pay for his medical bills, and then also he ended up getting sent back to prison. So now we also have to, our taxes have to also go towards that. It's like the fucking constant cycle. Like, that was that conversation coming back through again. So, but also on the subject of Iris, Mike dropped the whole like, oh yeah, what about the whole you and Rebecca thing? He was like, are you still watching her cat? Which I was like, wait, is that literal? You mean that literally, or you mean that as a euphemism? And he's like, oh, I can't talk to you about anything. I was like, did Rebecca and Ian hook up at some point in time? Like, was that what that was in reference to, or what is that? Because I made a whole point talking about it where she was like, because like Mike was like, just call him Ian, and she's like, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to. So I was like, what the hell is that about? Because I think maybe Mike knows, or maybe he's trying to fish for like what that's about. Maybe like he likes Rebecca, he's trying to like for make some moves, but Rebecca's never been receptive of it. Maybe that's what that is. We have Kyle joining SWAT. So finally got it, and he's feeling comfortable and good about it. He's trying to tell Tracy, like, no, it's a safer move, but she's like, it's Kingstown. There is no safe move wherever, you know? But she talks about how Miriam would be proud of Kyle doing what he's doing. Because, I mean, it makes sense also from Kyle's perspective. He even talks about it to Mike. And he talked about it previously. It's like, he's tired of being just like the detective. Like, as a detective, you show up after the fact. When it's all said and done, you got to piece together what happened. That's the closest thing you can get to justice, where it's like the SWAT team is like, yo, we go in guns blazing and we can mediate a situation before it goes sideways, before we even have to have the detective show up. Like, the detective's work, it only comes in after the fact. If you're fortunate, you know, maybe you could get there before something happens. But even then, usually, like, if you're able to get there before, usually it's something's already happened. You have to try and get to the next person before something happens to them. It's always like, you know, a day late and dollar short type of situation. So that's why Kyle is even more motivated. Like, I can do a lot more good, like, out there on the front lines with SWAT. So it seemed like things are good. We'll see how that continues. I just feel like that's not going to last good forever. Mike didn't seem initially when he was like, yeah, like just more and more great news, because when Bunny was ignoring him, then found out about Kyle, it's like, I mean, Ian seemed he was happy about it, but I guess he knew Mike wouldn't be. So I guess I don't know if Mike's feeling that because of the whole Evelyn and Robert thing, or just extra reason like, oh, my brother's out there on the front lines. Like him being a detective showing up late, it's better than like him being on the front line. I don't know if that's part of it, because when he was with Kyle, he kind of made it seem like, hey, I'm happy for you. Finally on screen, get some time with him and his nephew. So we also have Tracy, which I'm like, did we know that Tracy worked at a women's correction facility? Because at first when she showed up, I was like, is she covering Miriam's job or something? I was like, no, I was like, I didn't know. First and foremost, I didn't even know she was a medical expert. Like, maybe that came up season 1 and 2. It has to have come up before, and I just don't remember. Because I feel like Tracy's always been the homebody, because I'm assuming she's been on maternity leave the entire time over the course of the show, because obviously she's been pregnant since the beginning of the series. I just don't remember how far along she was at the beginning of the series. Either way, like, I just don't feel like I remember them ever showing her at work. So her showing up, and especially because like they like recap it a little bit, but like that whole storyline about the prisoner, like, because Tracy ends up running into that woman who made it like she kills a guard and makes it seem like he essayed her and that it was the self-defense. What we saw in the recap, which I'm like, where's that going? I'm curious, because Tracy notices like, right, she's been here for 3 years, no conjugal visits, yet somehow she's pregnant. So I don't know what that's going to mean in the grand scheme of things, considering like, cause wasn't that home like one of the guards that died in season 1? Wasn't that like his nephew or something? Because it's just so weird to correlate. Because I can't remember if that season predates. Yeah, because I think the first season came out 2021, right? So I think it predated Reginald the Vampire. So it's just kind of interesting, because it's like, well, when I see Mario Van Peebles' son, like I think of him as Maurice, just because, especially considering, hey, like Reginald the Vampire season 2 is currently airing. Also, the the guard that was there with her, trying to tell her the joke to ease her mind, like after that patient kind of popped off on her. I was like, hey, it's Papa McCall. That dude, I'm always going to call him Papa McCall, even though he wasn't in a lot of Teen Wolf. Just kind of interesting. Paramount Plus, MTV, all umbrella conversation. Also, under that same umbrella is Showtime, which the most recent thing I saw him in was City on a Hill, which is just a constant reminder of just, man, we didn't get that 4th season. That's such a bummer. Even though that show could probably just, like, you could probably wrap that up with just one more season, so. I believe the only thing I've left to talk about is Bunny and Mike finally having their sit down. Other than talking about Rhonda, it is the whole conversation about remedying the situation and just like Mike needing to fix that. It's basically like, yo, get KBD on Constantine's ass, because even that was the whole point, was like, oh, you're so dismissive of Bunny and them, but then Mike was like, yeah, you want to know who's organized? These people with these badges, and they're like ready just for shit. They just want an excuse for shit to pop off, so you need to be wary of them. And it's like, now Mike's going to be pushing KBD to jump down their throats, but once again, he's got the whole situation of, well, we know where Kareem stands with all of this stuff, who wants to lock down the prison and just keep, I mean, his idea is probably thinking like, right, if I lock down the prison, then we won't have to worry about Callahan doing anything on the outside and nothing on the inside affecting what's happening in the prison. But like, you can't do that. Your attempts to do that have not worked, and it's not going to work, so you need to kind of change things up. They kind of shut down whatever this grand plan that Callahan and Constantine have. So some very, very interesting developments all across the board. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.